We're playing a game, a Krav Maga game called Zombie Tag. It's a game where you get to practice your blocks as somebody comes, but nice and slow, so it's zombie tempo. What do we use this for specifically? We're using it for learning a particular kind of technique?
Yeah, we like to have our warm-ups incorporate some aspect of our learning so that when we get into the deep technique work, it's like, hey, you already have this because you've already done it. You just didn't know it.
Great.
So we're going to be working on inside defenses and adding that to some of the skills that we've already developed.
Well, let's do some more. This is also something, believe it or not, that you can still participate in. You can imagine yourself as the defender, or you can imagine yourself as a zombie, either one. But get up out of your chair and move around a little bit. So take us back to the beginning.
All right, so we're going to establish one person as it. We're going to let Jesse start as it. Everybody's going to get a turn to be it. It's like playing tag when we're 5, right?
Yay.
So Jesse's job is to not get tagged by the zombie and to just reach out and push those zombie arms away. Our job is to make it a little difficult for him. And then we'll do it for a moment or two, and then we'll switch its, and then we're going to add some things to it as well. Cool?
Sounds good.
All right, go get him.
Oh, no.
So many zombies, so little time.
Zombies move this fast.
All right, time. All right, DDR, how about you next?
All right,
you're it.
I'm it.
All right, go get him.
I felt the zombie behind me.
And time. All right, Andy, you get to be it. All right, go get her. All right, cool. Now, let's have some more fun with this. So while we're dealing with all this incoming stuff, we're also going to get your brain involved. And when I say clear, we're going to go back to that clearing action that we worked on before. We're going to get that leg back now within that fighting stance and move off and look as you go.
That same drill we've already done before.
We've already done that one before, and we're just going to add that in now. And then when I say go, you'll go back into it, and whoever's it is still it.
Okay.
Cool?
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll circle back around and you get to be it again.
Here we are.
All right, here we go. Let's go. Go get him. Tag the Jesse. Clear. And move. Good. Right back in on him. There you go. Now it's a surprise. Clear. Cool. And Andy, you're it.
All right.
Get her. Clear. Go on. Get her. Go, go, go. Get her, get her, get her. Give this girl too much time to set up. Make life too easy for her. Clear. Nice. And you're it.
I'm it.
All right, go get him.
Yeah.
Clear. Go. Get on him. Nice. Good job, good job, good job. Just don't get tagged.
Just don't get tagged.
Clear. Nice.
Once again, this is a great exercise to get your heart rate up, to get your body ready for some more self-defense actions. I can see clearly, especially as we add this different piece in here of moving out of the range of an attacker, that there's a lot more that can be learned from this. So this is an exercise that you can practice, again, with a partner. You can also just use your imagination and use a mirror to get into this habit of pushing an attacker away. Like you said, with the open palm, it's a very natural and very versatile kind of combative.
Yep.
We're going to be learning a lot more of these kinds of exercises with Tammy and Jesse and Andy right now. Now, like all martial arts, Krav Maga also has a variety of different kinds of techniques. We have techniques for offense and techniques for defense, techniques for combatants and techniques for defenders, or actions and reactions. So we're just about to start with some of the defensive maneuvers with the choke.
Yes.
So once again, I'm going to get out of the way and let Jesse and Andy work with Tammy, and I'll be back in a minute.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we finished up the last time with just a little bit of an intro into the choke defense from the front. And one of the things that we talk about quite a bit is that the problem that we face is what dictates the solution that we use. So we don't get to do what we want if it doesn't match the situation. So in this situation, However, I ended up at the very end of the timeline of this dynamic. I didn't see him coming at all. So he ends up here. This is obviously a problem. It's a problem for a couple of reasons, especially if he knows how to choke. I have very limited time. We're talking seconds here before I'm no longer conscious enough to be able to defend. So we're going to work on this technique today, working that through, and then working our way out. So putting these pieces together, let's come from the other side. As the choke comes on, what we worked on, drop this for me for a second. What we've already worked on is that palm strike. And that's my offensive response here, because not only do I want to defend the choke, but I also want to be able to cause damage as soon as possible. Be as economical in my movement as I can and bring to the party as much violence as I can so he doesn't want to deal with me anymore. So this palm strike now, I want to go to the most vulnerable target I can. He's quite a bit taller than I am, so if I end up a little bit short, that's okay. I can come in here. That's pretty uncomfortable too. Otherwise, I'm going to strike right up here into the face. Kind of a fun little added bonus is if you get here, and either because you were frightened, adrenalized, or just didn't bring enough power behind it, they don't really move, you have eyeballs and fingers, and they're perfectly positioned. And that helps a lot. Okay, so the choke is on. The strike's going to come in, and I want to release the choke at the same time. So what I'm going to do here is make a monkey hook. So what we call it, a monkey hook. Pulling the thumb directly to the side of the hand. And as I'm striking, that hook's going to come up and get as close to where his hands are crossing on my throat as possible. As that reaches out to strike, this is coming in and delivering a very sharp pluck. So at the end of the action, this hand is clear, and he has had a very nice experience with my palm strike.
This is a very interesting kind of technique right here, and there's a bit of detail that you need to get close in, so I think this might be a great time for the action cam to come in.
Cool. So when we're working on the choke defense, one of the key aspects of it being effective is being able to come in with the defending hand that's going to release that choke and make a monkey hook. Monkey hook is just a hook over with the fingers, and what's really important is that thumb gets glued into the side of the hand. The reason why that's important is that we like to be grabby. Humans are grabby. And so what happens more instinctively is I want to do this. This is what my natural response tells me I want to grab. And there are a couple of really distinct problems with this. One, this is a very weak grip or action in the human body. So with somebody big like Jesse, if I get here, get away from me. I got nothing, all right? So the other thing is that for some people, when they get grabbed, that's what they do instinctively is they pull away. So if he's tight and I grab and he pulls away, he's either pulling me in or he pulls that hand out by tightening into my own throat. Either way, it's a bad idea. Weak grip, bad trigger for him. So the monkey hook is going to come over the top. It prevents me from grabbing, and it also allows me structurally to really get down into the lats when I do this plucking action so that I have a chance to really break that off. And it also doesn't leave me tied. If I had grabbed him, which is what I don't want to do, and it worked, then I'm here and I'm tied, I'm attached. And now we are stuck together in a way that is not to my advantage. This leaves me free to shift and adjust as necessary and do other things. So monkey hook, very important on this. Choke is on. The striking hand comes up in the middle. The plucking hand comes from the outside. They come up together. It's a simultaneous action here. Reaching out to strike, breaking over the hook, getting as close to that choke as I can. Strike and rotate into that strike, just like when we are doing our striking drills. And we're going to pull this down for just a moment into my chest, anchoring this away. It also locks him in for a second, so take that arm away. He can carry me away because he's so much bigger than I am, but I own his hand for a moment. If I am loose on that, then all he has to do is pull out, and then he can move to plan B. And I want to stay in charge of the dynamic. I want to be in control of what happens next, not him. So one more time, here, from here, now I have to figure out how to fight my way out of this paper bag. And that's where all of those combatives that we were learning before are going to come into play.
All right, so now that we've seen the monkey hook and how that comes out of there, let's rewind it and go back to the beginning.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So choke comes on. I'm responding. One hand comes up in the middle, the other hand to the outside. This one is going to deliver that monkey hook pluck release while this one's doing the strike. Now I'm out. Problem is we're still very, very close, and I need to fight my way out of this paper bag so he doesn't shift and go into a new attack of some kind. In this moment, while those hands are busy, as I'm recoiling back out of this to open myself back up, we have a perfect target waiting for us. So here, because he's so much longer than I am, I'm probably going to deliver a groin kick because a knee is going to be too far away from me. So we're just going to give that nice little parting gift and say bye-bye and then move out and scan. Let's do that from the other side. If Jesse collapses his elbows and he gets nice and close, then we're back to this goofy looking thing that doesn't do any good. The same defense works, but now it needs to be a knee. And if that's all I need to do, if that's enough, he's like, yeah, I don't want to play with you anymore, then I can move out and scan. So we're going to go ahead and let Andy come in and do a couple of reps of this. I'd like you to do some slow working reps, working the pieces out. And you guys can do this at home as well, even if you don't have a partner. And if you do have a partner, DDR was talking before about watching for safety concerns. This is not a drill to see how beautifully you can choke each other out, but more just to give the correct stimulus. Cool. One more time. Nice. There she's a little closer, so there's that knee, moving out and scan. Now I'm actually going to reverse the roles. Traditionally we think of the big guy attacking the smaller female, but women are just as brutal if they decide to come in and on attack. So mentally, from a training standpoint, it's really important that the guys work defenses against the women. And a lot of times in class, they'll respond, oh, I don't have to do that. It's just a girl. Do not underestimate what a female is willing to do. Never underestimate that. So we're going to switch it, and we'll let Andy attack, and Jesse, I'll have you do a couple reps on the
Sounds
defense. Let's change positions. Good. Nice. One more time. Go a little slower for me. We'll get nice slow pieces. Pluck, strike, and then a counter, a parting gift, and he leaves out. Great, good job. Okay, so thanks guys. If you guys would just kind of hang out with me here, we're gonna take those motions and work them all by yourself, so you really don't always have to have a partner on this one. So we'll start in that semi-passive stance. So we're gonna start with those hands already kind of on their way up, and on one, we'll get to here. My right hand's going to come forward for the strike. My left hand's on its way in for the monkey hook. And we'll just do that a couple times. Ready? And one. Again. And one. Nice. Now, we're going to add more to our one. And on one, that hand's going to sink all the way in by my own throat. And this hand's going to reach all the way out. And we're going to rotate the dynamic nice and tight. Cool?
Cool.
All right, here we go. Ready? And one. Reset. And one. Nice. Now, dry drilling, adding the kick because we got to fight our way out of this, right? So one will be the defense, and then two, go ahead and deliver a groin kick, and then we'll move out and scan. Cool? All right, here we go. 1, 2, moving out. Nice job. One more time. Ready? 1, 2, and out. Nice job. Good job. So what we've been working on is this last line in what we call a timeline. So from that standpoint, we played in an earlier class with the range and the distance and how I want to move in response to him. So if Jesse starts, could take another step back. Cool, that's good. So if Jesse starts from here, I happen to look up and I see him lock eyes on me. I see an aggressive posture and he's moving towards me. I'm not going to wait until he gets here and puts his hands around my throat to go, oh, I think I have a problem. Right? So if I have that much distance and that much information, I want to be able to respond a little bit sooner. Get away from me. In our zombie tag game that we played at the beginning of the class, this dynamic that we were working with, we actually have, it's a defense, and we call it our inside defense. We call it an inside defense, inside palm defense, because I'm moving my body from out here to in here. So moving inside my structure. So, Andy, I'm going to let you come up for this. What I'm going to have Andy do is just go into her zombie position, and it's going to give me something to work with. And you can just imagine this as well. From a semi-passive stance, I'm going to bring this right hand out, and mentally I'm targeting right about here, because when she's moving, she may be a little deeper. So there's my inside defense. And I can do it to the other side as well. Cool? So I'm going to get these guys out here, and you'll come out. Jesse, do 1 or 2 inside defenses, and then switch roles. Nice. Notice he's moving his body out of the way as well. Call that a body defense. Good. Switch. And she's going to do the same thing. Nice. Very nice. And time. Good. Inside defenses are things that you can work with just looking visually in the mirror as well.
So it turns out that the zombie tag does have a very important practical application. As you can see, it's maybe the first line of defense in this timeline that you're talking about. We're going to hook all those pieces up, the zombie defense, the parting gift, and all of that in the next lesson, which is coming up right now. So that was a really amazing defense against a choke. But I'm curious about whether or not a choke is actually very common.
Depends on where you are. But generally speaking, if we're talking about a street level ambush, your threat is going to come off angle because they don't want to see you coming.
So there's some other maybe ambushes or attacks like you described them that are equally or maybe more so common than a choke.
In certain situations, yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, let's take a look at some of them.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
I'm going to let you, Jesse and Andy play, and I'll be back in a little bit.
Great. So one of the things that happens when we start talking about street level violence is if you're the threat, which is the term that we use to describe anybody who has ill intent towards you, if they've done this before, or if they've thought about it at all before they start the attack or the assault, they want to limit as much damage as they take, and they don't want to get caught in the process. Their goal is to complete their particular personal mission in the attack. So a lot of times they're going to come from behind. So we're going to work on one of those from behind. We're going to do a fast version so you can see it full speed, and then we'll slow it down and work on it. So I'm here unsuspecting, maybe talking to a friend of mine, and in comes this problem here, and moving out. All right, so a little slower this time. Unsuspecting, attack comes from behind. We call this a bear hug grab. And there's a couple of different ways somebody can grab you this way, but we're going to work with the easiest one from a mechanic standpoint. This grab has come in. His intentions could range from bowling me forward to leaning back and picking me up, could carry me off, which in this male to female dynamic is more likely. And go ahead for a second and do a lift and walk away with me. All right, so see how easy this is? Thank you. I don't want that to happen. I want to stay in one place as much as possible. From a threat standpoint, when somebody gets moved to a secondary location in an attack, the survival statistics drop dramatically. So I want to stay here. So the attack comes in. I'm going to respond by dropping forward. We're going to come sideways on this. Dropping forward allows me to drop my center of gravity and get it a little closer to the ground. I'm heavier now. And as that happens, I'm also checking what he's got going on here. I don't need to waste the time to look at it. I'm just going to come in, butt back, stay out of bending the knees, hands come here. This tells me where he's at. What's nice is that you have a very natural, instinctive weapon, if you will, in your elbow. And his head's back there somewhere because he's behind me. The head's at the top of that food chain, right? So I'm going to work the same rotational stuff that we've done before, but instead of driving forward, I'm driving backwards now. So taking the opposite heel to drive that elbow back, and we're essentially going to play ping pong with his head and drive it back and forth a couple times. The reason for that is if he's got me nice and tight, yeah, there we go. All right, nice and tight. and I can't do anything. I'm stuck, right? So I want to give him some encouragement to loosen this up a little bit. And as soon as I feel that loose, now I'm going to be able to turn and get my way out of this. And then, like we said before, I'm going to fight my way out of this paper bag. Oh, now we're back to where we were before, and I have that. Always an option. Moving out and scanning. So I'm going to let Andy come in, and we're going to take just a second and give an example as to why bending over is so important. So just come in and pick her up, just as you are. Cool? Okay. Now, grab her and drop your center of gravity forward. Now pick her up. Okay. So you gain a whole lot of weight when you bend over. It makes you a whole lot harder to carry off, and that's one of the reasons why we take this energy forward. So nice and slow, come in, take the grab, and let's work through the pieces on it, okay? Comes in from behind. She's checking those hands and playing ping pong with his head, one elbow after another. She felt that loosen up, worked her way around, and fighting her way out. Let's do that one more time, and let's do this from the side. Cool. So he comes in, she catches and drops, and works towards the head, feels him loosening up, working her way around, fighting her way out of that paper bag, creating the necessary distance and space. One of the things that we do when we were talking before about the choke defense and dealing with that timeline and somebody getting close and trying to get away from it before the attack comes in, that's a lot harder to do when the attack is coming from behind. I don't necessarily have eyes on the back of my head and I can't see it happening. But I might pick up on that information. Our spidey senses are pretty good if we're paying attention. So we'll do it from this angle. If I sense something is not right or I feel him moving a little quickly, I want to be able to defend before we get here. One option when we were playing with that elbow, if I just open that elbow up, all of a sudden this weapon is a lot longer, and I can put a fist on the end of it and just swing around and make contact. If I do that, that's not going to be enough to finish, so you've got to be mentally ready to come back in and do some more damage. The other option is if I notice and he's out of range, I can drop forward just like we did before. It keeps me more balanced. And I'm going to bring that knee up and just kick back like I'm a mule or a horse. And that allows me to back off, allows me to create some space and see what's going on. And hopefully lets Jesse pick somebody else. I'm not a good target anymore. So what I'd like for you guys to do is work through those 3 phases of the timeline. So we'll start with the longest distance, which would allow you to kick, and then the second distance where you kind of feel and you can swing back, and then let him come all the way in. So just progressively work through all 3 of those so we can see how the timeline works out. So he's giving up too much information so she knows he's there. Good. Nice. And he's going to get her. Forward and playing ping pong with the head, working her way out and away. Nice. So when we're training and we do repetitions and we do drills, one of the ways to think about all this information is to separate them out into units or packages. So we have our combatives that we worked on before, and then we have our defensive skills. So we have the choke defense, which literally just the defense is that. And then the bear hug defense. And this is that defense here, right? So we have defenses, we have combatives, we have the mental headspace of getting away. So those function like units or islands, individual pieces of data that get stored mentally. Over time with our practicing and our drills, like working that timeline that we worked, it allows us to create mental bridges between the information. So we can tie it all together and it all becomes an option that's available for us in our response timeline. One of the things that we can do as well to create our capacity to jump through those bridges pretty quickly is to create problems that allow us to have to make some pretty rapid decision making. So I think what we'll do now is we'll start with the choke from the front that we were working on before. Okay. And you can add in a little bit more of a distance defensive measure as well. You don't have to let him get all the way up in the timeline. And we'll do 2 or 3 of that where you're coming in for the choke on Andy. And then I'll let you come around and come at her from behind. So we just mix it up a little bit. And this is going to force Andy to have to read what's happening with Jessie and create the correct solution. Not because she picked it, but because the problem created it. Cool? Okay. All right, go. Very nice. Gets a little closer to her. She can use that inside defense. Nice. You guys can be working with this as well. Run that timeline mentally for yourself. Doing the defense. Working the defense. Nice. And then he's going to come from behind. And you guys can be working this at home as well. That's one option, right? Keep him away. A little bit closer. Nice. And she's going to be completely clueless. And he's going to catch her. Very nice. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. So, giving us something to work with and all that decision making by pulling some of these different islands together and making some bridges.
I like this concept of the islands and the bridges. So the islands are like a mindset that you're in. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the bridges take you to the choice of a technique that you're going to use.
Correct.
Got it. Tell me a little bit more about like one common bridge. Like what bridges me? Is it the awareness? Is it the level of intensity that you're feeling? What is that bridge?
So the bridges are fundamentally based on the level of awareness that I bring to the experience.
Got it.
If I'm in an environment where typically I'm very safe and I just mentally am not preparing myself to be highly on guard, because we don't want to live that way all the time, then the bridge that I'm going to respond to is going to be a pretty big leap, sort of that rapid transit line, right, to the island of defense. But if I'm in an environment where my radars are all the way up to begin with, because I'm someplace where maybe, I'm unfamiliar territory, I'm in that part of town that kind of, makes me aware of where I'm at, then the bridge, I'm already halfway on my bridge.
Uh-huh.
And I have lots of islands I can choose from, and it's a little bit more aware in my mind.
You can think of it almost like a level of activation.
Yes.
Got it. So this is, again, the practicality of Krav Maga. It teaches you these fundamentals of a mindset that you're in wherever you happen to be, the level of attack that you're in, then a level of activation that takes you to the combatives that you have at your disposal. All of that is what puts Krav Maga into a very practical zone, and we're going to be learning more about that in the very next lesson.